Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Come on in here and sit down with me. Get yourself something hot or cold to drink. I've got my cold drink right here, and I'm ready to dive into Psalm 44 today. We're going to look at verses 9, 10, and 11. Now, this section is different. It is different than. So we go from the heights of praise in verses 1 through 8 down to the lowest depths of grief and despair in verses 9 through 14. And in these verses, we have what I'm calling the sevenfold curse. Listen to what Spurgeon said about that Selah that ends verse 8. You notice there in verse 8 it says, "In God we boast all the day long and praise thy name forever, Selah." And Spurgeon writes, he says, "Let the song be lifted up high as we bring to remembrance the eternal love which chose us, predestined us to be sons, redeemed us with a price, and then enriched us with all the fullness of God." A pause comes in fitly here with the Selah, when we are about to descend from the highest to the lowest key. No longer are we to hear Miriam's timbrel, but rather Rachel's weeping. And that's what we have here, because we go from the personal experience of victory to the personal experience of judgment. And the change is stark. You'll notice that we have it begins with the but thou hast cast us off. The adversative is always an important marker in any language, and it is here. We've had it now 3 times. We had it there in verse 3, when it marks the change between their own sword and their own arm, but thy right hand, and so forth. So we know the contrast is created there around that one word, but. And in Hebrew, it's just the conjunction, and it's translated here as an adversative. We have it again in verse 7. The "but thou hast saved us from our enemies." I'm not sure I would have translated it that way. I probably would have said, "and thou hast saved us." But we have a "but" here in the King James. And so let's just take it for how it stands. "But thou hast saved us from our enemies." So God is doing his work through his people, but then we have it in verse 9, and here it truly is an adversative, "but thou hast cast us off," because we go from singing praise all the day long and forever to "you've cast us off, you've put us to shame." And then we see the sevenfold curse, what I'm calling the sevenfold curse. So let me begin by reading verse 9, 10, and 11. "But thou hast cast us off, and put us to shame. Thou goest not forth with our armies. Thou makest us to turn back from the enemy. They which hate us spoil us for themselves. Thou hast given us like sheep appointed for meat, and hast scattered us among the heathen." So that's verses 9 through 11. Notice, as I said, the sevenfold curse, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them here in these 3 verses here. Now, I've just identified 7 of these. You can go back to the book of Deuteronomy in chapter 28 and read through the curses, because there's a multitude of curses. And if you read through the curses with Psalm 44 in mind, you'll say to yourself, "Oh yeah, that sounds exactly like what he's talking about here in Psalm 44. First thing is, he's cast us off. That is, he separated himself from us. Then he put us to shame. He goes not out with our armies. Remember the parallelism here between the first phrase and the second. We have couplets all through here. You make us to turn back from the enemy. So they're defeated and run from the enemy instead of the other way, which is what God promised. He promised them that the enemy would run from them. One of them would chase 1,000. Thou hast given us like sheep appointed for meat. Notice that phrasing, appointed for meat. This isn't the sheep that are sacrificed and done so preciously for the use of the altar. No, this is the sheep that's slaughtered in the shambles. They're just cut up and used and sold for meat. There's no care given to it. It's butchery. So God has given them to butchery and scattered them amongst the heathen. So we begin here with this sevenfold curse, and we'll pick that up again tomorrow and look further at it in 12 through 14 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.